Okay, it is now 4:03 p.m. on Thursday, January 20th. I will call the meeting of the Wolfeboro Police Commission to order at this time and invite everybody to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I know, I was trying to get through fast. 15.
Okay, just to introduce everybody seated here this afternoon, we have Chief Dean Rondo, Commissioner Bob O'Brien, and Commissioner Steve Wood, Commissioner Sean Coop, and our Secretary, Sherry Moore. Thank you. You will notice this afternoon, too, that we don't have the use of the screen because our technical expert, Captain Livy, is away. But we should be back in business next month. But I'm sure the chief is aptly capable of handling all the monthly reports.
Roger that.
So the first thing I'd like to do is entertain a consideration of the minutes from both our regular meeting that was on December 16th, as well as the special meeting that we had on January 5th.
I would move we accept the minutes as read or prepared.
Okay.
I would second it.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner O'Brien to accept the minutes as written for both December 16th and January 5th, and seconded by Commissioner Coop. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. I do have a couple of items for non-public this afternoon, but it should be fairly brief.
Under litigation.
Under litigation.
Roger that.
All right, this time, Chief, if you'd like to proceed with the monthly reports.
Thank you, sir. So the first slide on your deck is going to be the December, this is December reporting month, and this will be the incidents year-to-date. So right now, we're showing a decline from 43 in November to 37 in December. That was a 13.95% decrease. There were 58 reported offenses in the month for those 37 incidents, and again, that's fairly consistent with what we see. December is a holiday month. Arrests, slight increase of 13.04% from 23 to 26. You gentlemen do have the
I just have
backup data.
one question on the backup data.
Yes, sir.
There's an arrest here, and typically the arrests, it gives a, I think it's the officer's number, correct?
That's correct.
Under the ID.
Right.
And there's one here that we have where one of our officers was assisting, but it was 540. Is that a tough number or number? Is that a, I don't wanna.
Which one is it, sir?
1, 2, 3, 4. It would be the start of page 4. Under Lake Wentworth Inn, but above that it says the arrest number was 21-347, arrest ID 540, arrest ID 332.
I'll check on that.
Okay.
I'm not sure what, yeah, that's gonna be one of our officers, I just don't know what number it is.
Okay.
Do you want me to,
I'll look into that later. I was just curious.
okay, in the future, do you want me to print these off by, instead of ID number, name? You want name?
Yeah, I think it would just be easier that way to have it
Sure.
by the officer. That way we know which officer's responsible for which calls.
Yeah.
And if we have any
No, that's
questions,
that's an in-jurisdiction arrest, I just don't know what ID number.
Okay.
So that's the actual employee number, as opposed to like a badge number.
Understood. Okay.
And that's for their town Wolfeboro ID number, that's the way they do it.
Okay.
Traffic stops year to date, we're down slightly, 13.23% for the month of December, from 257 to 223. Of those, 8 tickets were meted out, and that equates to a 3.58% chance of getting a ticket. So most of our stops are educational in nature, and that's what that speaks to. You gentlemen do have the backup data. If you wanted to see the where the traffic stops were and for what offenses, on what streets. For collisions, for the month of December, there was no change. We had 13 in November, 13 in December. The next slide in your deck is the streets that those were on. Interestingly enough, we had one on Academy Drive. So,
I saw
first
that.
time I've ever seen that reported.
Chief, 1 second. I'm curious. So that's actually away, I guess, huh? I mean,
Oh, it's
away.
definitely
Yeah,
away.
public,
Well,
yeah.
public,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's definitely away. So, I also gave you gentlemen in your backup data the accidents for the year from January to December. I think you've all had a chance to look at your packets. And so we had 130 traffic crashes in the town of Wolfeboro. So that's that strikes me as a reasonably low number. So I just thought that was interesting. 130, that's actually pretty good. Only three crashes for the month of February last year.
Wow, that is good.
Yeah, the winter one.
So,
Yes, I noticed, you might just addressing just for a second, those numbers and what those mean to you, because I noticed, we have, 16, 17 arrests over the summer, July and August, collisions over July and August. Then, roughly the same, a little lower during the winter months. Obviously, you have the inclement weather in the winter months, but the high population in the summer months. So what I'm seeing is those
balancing out.
balance out.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. It's funny, you asked that question, I'll just throw this in there for what it's worth. People often ask me, or they kind of make a statement to me, they say, hey, it's getting in the wintertime, it's your quiet time, right? No. No, it's not. It's always something, there's always something going on, and as you pointed out, the weather and vacations, population density, so forth, holidays, they all bring their own individual activities. It's just really interesting. So no, nothing is ever quiet. There's always something going on. There's always something happening. The other thing I did give you in your personnel analysis report, I reported the total for everybody from January through December 31st.
On the arrest report, yeah.
And if in that, gentlemen, that backup document looks like this. And you'll see all of the activities. So for arrests, we had 361 for the full year. For motor vehicle stops, we had 2,929. There again, you see the 130 motor vehicle crashes that we had. We issued 172 parking tickets. We executed 23 warrants. Incidents year to date were 583. So these numbers are actually not too off from a non-COVID year. So that's the big takeaway from this. So this tells me that activity in Wolfeboro is starting to get back. It's still a little low, but not much.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of activity there on this report. So if you see that, you can take a close look at that. And you want to see, let's see where I was.
Yeah, you didn't do much.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
do much at all. Yeah, right. Yeah.
The officer below you, though, was exemplary.
Yes, he was. Yeah, so I had 4 arrests. It says, this is showing me with 4 arrests, 2 assists, 4 bookings. Oh, look at that, 99 citations.
And 62 parking, 62 parking.
Parking tickets. But those are motor vehicle stops. That 99 is motor vehicle stops, folks. So it's not
Well,
some.
this speaks to
but-
your presence in the downtown, which is valuable.
Yeah. So, so anyway, yes, I am out, on contrary to popular opinion, I am out and about, and I know we have a selectman over here that will say that he sees me downtown all the time. So, With all due respect, Mr. Chairman, I'll move into the SRO report.
Yes.
So December was the 4th month of school for SRO Mary Devine, and she had 17 full days of school. So just keep that in the back of your mind. She's slightly over 2 weeks. During that time, SRO Devine responded to several incidents in a high school and middle school and wrote 3 arrest reports and 9 incident reports. Additionally, SRO Devine participated in meetings regarding the Kingswood's Next Step program. The Next Step team program is an intervention and support group for identified at-risk students to increase overall positive behaviors and academic success, so better outcomes, right? That's what we want, better outcomes. The program is designed to help educate our young students. SRO Devine participated in 2 class discussions regarding typical traffic stops, official training and protocol for use of firearms, alternative approaches to contain, control, or prevent violence, and the role of police in communities. SRO Devine completed training to become a resilience, empowerment, and natural supports for education and work facilitator at the high school. A Renew facilitator creates hope, builds futures, changes lives of students. SRO Devine will be able to guide students to get on track through school, home, and work through a series of goals, working as a team with teachers, administrators, guardians, and other support staff. So I just want to stop there for a moment and just talk about disenfranchisement. When we look at the causes of crime in society generally, and we look at specifically drug abuse in particular, or substance abuse, to include alcohol, because alcohol is a drug, right? One of the primary reasons why people venture down a road or a path like that, or venture into criminal activity, is because of disenfranchisement. And this Renew program is very, very important, because what it's doing is it's helping to address that disenfranchisement, trying to fix that issue. We're always looking for better outcomes, right? That's everything that we do is outcome driven. We want better outcomes. That was the whole purpose of the SRO program. It's the whole purpose of the juvenile services officer. That's the whole point of community-oriented policing. It drives everything that we do. We want better outcomes, better outcomes over time. We're looking to fix problems, and that's important. We want to first define the problem and then address fixes specific to that. So this is a really good program, and this is designed to get right at the root causes of a lot of the problems that we're seeing in society. Right, and so I think Mary Devine is doing, Officer Devine is doing fantastic work up there at the school, and both of these programs are going to get us better outcomes, and that's what we want. That's exactly what we want. Continuing on, SRO Devine had 1 truancy report, which had been referred to DCYF and juvenile probation. SRO Devine took a report of an assault which did not occur on campus nor in the town of Wolfeboro. She took the initial report and then forwarded all the information to the responsible agency for investigation. Again, that's exactly what she's there for. SRO Devine took 2 reports of sexual assault that did not occur on campus. Notifications were made to the responsible investigating agencies. Additionally, SRO Devine took a student into detention for safety reasons and protective custody. Incidentally, in another incident, a student was released on a hand summons for possession of tobacco products. This was not the first offense for this individual, which is the reason that summons was issued. You gentlemen know that, I don't want, and I'm not trying to build a pipeline from the school to the courts. We don't want that. But in this particular case, this was a recidivist individual who had multiple bites at the apple. In a case involving communicating a threat to the school, an adult student was arrested for harassment, disorderly conduct for a social media post that was made and placed on the internet. The post was communicating violence directed at the school and did cause significant concerns within the Wolfeboro and greater Wolfeboro communities due to the regional nature of our SAU. That student is awaiting arraignment on 2 February 2002 in the district court. I'm just going to take a moment here and state that, look, when we post things on the internet, we have to take ownership for the things that we post, right? It's very important that if you're going to post something that's going to communicate violence or a threat or suggest violence or something along those lines, there are going to be consequences to that. We're not going to sit by idly and let that take place, especially if it's directed at our schools. We will not tolerate that. Mr. Chairman, moving on, I will move into the chief's items.
Do we not have a detective report this?
The detective's report was sent out late, and I do not have it in my packet.
Where?
Okay, you have it? All right. So, do you have the narrative, sir?
It's in the previous page. Just back up on that and then you get the original. You got it?
I do now. For the month of December, Detective Emerson investigated 3 new cases. Detective Emerson continued his investigation on last month's internet crimes against children case. He also worked and attended meetings regarding the crime spree that was running through small towns in New Hampshire in November and December. These monthly detectives meetings help coordinate the police response to crime and help share information in a timely manner so the police and other investigative agencies can more thoroughly respond to criminal threats in our region. In this matter, the crime spree spanned several states, including New Hampshire. The suspects were armed and reported dangerous. In his investigative efforts, Detective Emerson worked with New Hampshire State Police, Madison PD, Conway PD, Maine State Police, and the FBI. Suspects were later identified and arrested by the FBI in Connecticut. Lastly, Detective Emerson is still in the process of auditing our evidence room. As you know, this is a ministerial task, but isn't very important. It does not take long for an evidence room to become inundated with evidence and property. As part of this procedure, evidence is returned to rightful owners after consulting with the courts or destroyed pursuant to court order. A vast majority of the evidence in the room consists of drugs, drug paraphernalia, alcohol, and other contraband items. As an aside, and for example, he took close to 100 pounds of old drug evidence to the Wheelabrator facility, which is in Pembroke, Concord, where the items were destroyed. And they're destroyed, just so we're all clear, they're destroyed in an environmentally safe manner in a huge incinerator in that facility, which then, and everything is consumed, including the smoke. And then that is a cogeneration project, so everything that's burned generates electricity for Pembroke and Concord. Pretty cool. Cases assigned this month included 1 scam, 1 harassment, 1 warrant for arrest for forest and lands. Percentage of cases closed this month is 71%. That's very good. New cases closed by arrest during the month is 33%. Percentage of entire caseload closed thus far is 33%. The thing I want to talk a little bit about here is with scam calls. This is something that we see very often. Just be mindful, folks listening, there are a lot of different type of confidence schemes that are out there. These schemes typically target our aging and elderly population. And so when I say, thank you. When I say that you don't have a long lost cousin from Nigeria, he didn't leave you $1 million, so don't cash any checks. Don't accept their phone calls because they're just not there. And you know, we deal with a lot. We deal with a few of these every month, and some of these are really heartbreaking cases. And so please, if you have any concerns or questions, you call Wolfeboro PD, and we'll help you try to figure out if it's a legitimate request for information or if it's a scam. Moving on, Mr. Chairman. So under general budget items, there will be an end of 4th quarter budget presentation for the FY21 budget at the conclusion of the Chief's items presentation in February 2022. This will close the books on the FY21 budget. Just let me explain why we're doing. We originally wanted to do that in January, but the finance department still has to do some work on the FY21 budget, and they have to adjust those books so that I can give the accurate numbers to the commission. That hasn't been done yet, and they've been busy getting the FY22 budget ready for the budget committee and presentation. So by February, I'm hoping that all that work will be done and we'll be able to give an accurate presentation. Presently, the PD is executing the FY22 budget. At the time of the writing of this report, we presented our fiscal year 22 budget to the budget committee on 4 January, and the warrant article presentation was executed on 11 January 2022. The town meeting, the deliberative session, is scheduled for 8 February, and town vote is scheduled for 8 March 2022. The locations have yet to be announced. Do you know where the town vote is going to be?
Great Hall.
And the deliberative session?
High school, at the
Kingswood,
Art Center.
Kingswood Arts Center. Okay, folks.
Like
So
last year.
Same as last year.
It is on the 8th.
Yes, yes. 8 February at the Kingswood Arts Center will be the town's deliberative session, and then 8 March 2022 at the Great Hall for voting. So
There's an
there-
R in March.
Pardon?
M-A-R-C-H, not M-A-H-C-H.
That's what I said. I said March.
Just so everybody's clear too, and this was mentioned at the selectmen's meeting recently, at the deliberative session that will be at the Arts Center, anybody in attendance will be expected to follow the school district's direction,
That's right, yeah.
which currently is masks on if you enter the building. So if you are going to attend the deliberative session in the Arts Center auditorium, you'll be required to wear a mask.
At present, I'm very happy to report that I was very pleased with this year's budget process and the recommendations made by the Budget Committee. I think our proposed FY22 budget, all three budgets for operations are very good, and I echo the sentiments made by the Vice Chair of the Wolfeboro Budget Committee, Mr. Robert Tupper. He really hit the nail on the head, and I think it was spot on. So I was very pleased with the way things went this year. Personnel, we have posted the corporal's opening and are awaiting applications, and we will continue to keep the commission informed. There will be both a written exam and oral board scheduled for this position. Operations, criminal investigations, and prosecutions. In terms of police investigations and operations, the month of December was reasonably busy for a holiday month, and though activity was down, it is still very active for this time of year. Prosecutions, the month of December too was busy in terms of prosecutions for a holiday month. 17 defendants responded to 17 charges. Of those, 12 were found guilty at trial or by plea. 3 were placed on file pending good behavior, restitution, and other classes or counseling as part of their agreement, and 1 defendant was now processed through an agreement. The conviction rate this past month is 96.2%, with $3,122 in fines, restitution, and penalties meted out by the courts. Safety and security matters. December proved to be a busy month for traffic. We're still realizing significant increases in traffic volumes because of a variety of reasons. We believe that the population of Wolfeboro has grown a bit beyond the 2020 census, mostly due to folks escaping the major population centers to ride out COVID-19. I dare say these volumes are at or near all-time highs. I suspect the traffic to our town will continue to be heavy all season long, so please plan for this in advance and leave earlier for destinations. Remember, it is winter in Wolfeboro, and the roads are often covered by snow, slush, and ice due to storms. Please be mindful of how you are driving, and as always, please be safe. Lastly, during significant weather events, if you don't have to go out, don't. A vast majority of our crashes occur during periods of inclement weather. Plan for needs ahead of these storms, cancel non-important appointments or events if possible. Please be safe. This past month, the PD and other town and state agencies responded to a tragic water incident on Lake Winnipesaukee. This event was terrible as it was and could have been avoided. Please, unless risks are greatly mitigated, stay away from the lakes and cold water during cold winter months. And if out on the water in a small craft, please wear life vests and or other personal flotation devices. All of our lakes right now are very cold, and that water can be paralyzing if you are not prepared for a cold water entry. Lastly, if in full clothing, and especially in cold water, swimming is difficult at best, so please be safe, stay off the ice until it is safe, and please, if planning activities near water, take all the necessary precautions to be safe, especially in cold water or during the winter months. Please, don't make yourself a victim. What, are you gonna make fun of the way I say winter?
Nope.
W-Y-N-T-E-R.
There was
I
no-
mean, I can't make fun of that,
No,
so,
you can't.
not at all.
Motor vehicle enforcement, dispatch, nothing significant to report
it's okay.
this month with dispatch. Motor vehicle enforcement, in an effort to mitigate the traffic crashes we realize monthly, we'll be continuing a strong proactive approach to motor vehicle enforcement. This can be seen in our monthly briefing slides. We will be conducting aggressive speed reduction patrols in and all through town. So please, if you're in the habit of speeding, don't. Lastly, we continue to deploy assets and patrols to our identified problem areas, safety first. Just want to take a moment and say that we had received, and the captain had done an excellent job at building an operation around speeders on North Main Street. And that has been going very well, and we have received a lot of not complaints, but compliments about the operation and from the complainants. So that's good. So we know we're having an impact up there. So folks, please, if you're speeding, especially on North Main Street, please understand that there are patrols up there and you will be stopped. So you might want to watch your speed. The department is continuing its enhanced speed enforcement operations in the following areas: Lana Street, Forest Road, Cotton Valley and College Road to Started Road, Beach Pond Road, with a focus on the area between Pine Hill Road and North Line Road, Center Street, North Main Street, 109 East, Bay Street, and Sewell Road. The reason for these speed enforcement operations is due to citizen complaints and data collected and analyzed by our radar trailer. We will continue our efforts in these areas until we are sure that the speeds have come down. If you travel these roads, please be mindful of the posted speed limits. Training. Yours truly and Miss Sherry Moore attended the final New Hampshire Government Finance Officers training through the Government Finance Officers Association. Our last class was the internal controls and internal controls, and what was the very last one?
Those are how government is funded, how
It was what?
municipalities are funded.
That's right, how municipalities are funded, yeah, revenue course, actually. We both finished. It was a lot of work. In May, our presentation certificate issuance is planned. So I think it was a great course. It was very informative. I got a lot out of it. So I know I'm happy. What are we given, 18 months to finish, and we finished in about 14?
Yeah,
Something like that.
I think it's
Woo-hoo!
yeah, no, I think it's excellent that you both took this on of your own accord, for the sole purpose, like you like to say, creating better outcomes. And this just goes to preparing, solid budgets appropriately. And it speaks of the fact that when you present a document, it's come from an education on that preparation process. So it's kudos to both of you. We
Thank you. Yeah,
appreciate
it
both of
really
you doing
was.
that.
We couldn't have had better instructors. They were top notch, and these men and women are tops in the field. They are tops in their field, and there was a lot of information. It was well worth it. And there was a lot of town managers, a lot of town administrators, a lot of finance officers, school finance, district financial officers that were in town. It was very well attended, and the classes were big, but there was a lot of information that was put out, and some of the homework was actually quite interesting.
Did any of the Wolfeboro people attend in addition to you?
So several of the Wolfeboro people are members of the association, but we were the only two in the class from
Okay.
Wolfeboro. So they obviously went through the training or became members, years and years ago. But yeah, and I was surprised to see some of them at the conference that we attended. It was well worth the training. Well worth the training. Moving on, Sergeant Strzok attended K-9 training this past month. Both Officer Shanks and Oswald completed the A-Ride training. A-Ride is Advanced Roadside Impairment Driving Enforcement. This is obviously a counter DWI program. And this is a training program bridging the gap between standardized field sobriety testing and the drug recognition expert program. So that training it fits in there. All the officers get the standardized field sobriety training at the academy. So this is the next level up for DWI intervention. Dispatch. Within the coming weeks, dispatch And Supervisor Mia Lyons will be in the process of finalizing closing our records on our fiscal year 21 logs and calls for service. This is an annual ministerial event that we conduct at the end of each year. Specifically, the department reviews, audits, and closes out all open calls for service, deletes any duplicate cases and calls, and fixes administrative or clerical errors in our dispatch and run logs. As such, it's an important time of year because we use these finalized numbers in our annual reporting, and we use these numbers to measure activity and track criminal trends. So that takes a while to do that, and I know Mia's been on that. In fact, she's been also very supportive in getting me the numbers I need for the annual town report. And interestingly enough, just this afternoon, I received a request from the county attorney for the end of year statistics as well.
Okay.
Outreach and matters of interest, we're still engaged in a wide variety of TV and talk shows along with the town of Wolfeboro, and involved in a number of Wolfeboro Committee programs. Safety tip of the month, winter is upon us, the temps have dropped. When planning outside activities, keep in mind that during the evening hours, the temps will cool down quite a bit from the daytime temps. Plan and be prepared. Take precautions to protect against cold weather injuries and exposure. Dress in layers and limit outside activities in extreme cold weather. Mr. Chairman, subject to your questions, gentlemen, that is all I have.
Ron, did you have any questions on the reports?
No, the only thing I did take note of in our conversation earlier was that we're gonna have a submission of an end of year report to the commission next month. So
Yes, we
you might
will.
wanna address that.
Yeah, so that is something that I typically like to do in January, and I'll key that off with the end of year budget report. I have to wait at least until January. Last year we were able to do it in January. This year the finances simply aren't ready. It didn't make sense to break it up and do one report in January and one in February. So we'll do everything in February, but part of that will include the end of year report on the goals and objectives and what we met, what we didn't meet, and what the plan is moving forward. Now, you gentlemen have seen my fiscal year 2022 goals, because that document, goals and objectives, that's a 3 to 5 page document which serves as the basis for the building of the police department's budget. And so I list out the top 5 or 6 things that we want to accomplish in the next year, and then we measure the progress against those goals. Now, each one of those goals will have a number of objectives. Those would be the intermediate steps. And I know you gentlemen are familiar with this, but maybe the listening audience isn't, and so is not familiar with these terms. So you use objectives, intermediate objectives, to achieve your goals. And so that's how the process works, kind of like a ladder. So you gentlemen received on the fiscal year 21 goals and objectives, you received a midterm report in July, and you'll get your this year's, the end of report will be in February. And we'll do that after I do the budget review. So that's what Commissioner O'Brien and I had thought would work well for the commission.
Okay. Sean, did you have any comments or questions? Or
Yeah, just a couple things. There's a couple issues that we've spoken about as a commission in public hearings from like November till now. And I think with the holidays and all that, I thought it'd be important if we just touch on a couple things that I would consider important that we spoke about in the public, and the taxpayers probably need to know. And, one being, just quickly, if you could just recap it, Chief, is, the action we took on on January 10th, that our position to keep the dispatch center in with the new building. Could you just touch on that real quickly? I think it's important that people know why we took that position and why it's important.
Sure. So dispatch is really an integral part of the Wolfeboro Police Department. The citizens, whenever Chief Stan Stevens decided to merge or build a dispatch center as part of the police department, I'm assuming it was probably at about the time they moved into the new building in 1972. That discussion was had that dispatch should be part of the police operations and part of the police department. Over the years, as we've grown and matured as a police department, dispatch has become integral into just about everything that the police department does. If we were to separate the dispatch center into a distant location, the fear that I have is that we would no longer be able to keep the front doors of the Wolfeboro Police Department open. The dispatchers right now presently serve essentially as our official greeters. So the use of the facility as a refuge, place of security would not be available to the general public. It would make the day-to-day ministerial acts much more difficult, because the dispatchers do a lot of things for the officers. They do criminal research, they serve, Dispatch Supervisor Lyons serves as the keeper of the records for the police department. She and the other dispatchers do an awful lot of work for the police prosecutor in terms of research, use of the NCIC system, criminal database searches, so forth and so on. So there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes every day that keeps the Wolfeboro police officers out on the road, doing the things that they need to do, and keeps the rest of the organization moving forward. They do a lot of research for me, for things that I need. They dive into the IMC logs, the dispatch logs, when I need to report things to the county attorney, to the attorney general's office, or to another law enforcement agency. So there's an awful lot of work that gets done throughout the course of the day that was specifically focused on the Wolfeboro Police Department. Moving them to another location will just disrupt that whole flow of work. Will make things a lot more difficult. It won't complement the Wolfeboro Police Department, and I feel it would be counterproductive. The other thing is, I do know that, you know, one of the committee members during the presentation of the budget committee said, "Wow, you know, we could save money." Well, you're not going to save that much money. I still need antennas. I still need radios. I still need to talk to people. I still need IMC. So it doesn't really work that way. You know, it's a nice thought, right? You know, it's a nice thought, but when you dive down into and do the deep dive and look at all the second and third order effects, the cons far outweigh any pros that you would have here.
I think what's important too, that the public note, at our special meeting on January 5th, we did not have video coverage here, so those that were not in attendance probably are not aware what the purpose was of our meeting. But as you know, the proposed new police station has been designed by an architect and presented to the town, and it was suggested during one of the meetings of the building committee for that, for the public safety building, that we try to reduce the size of the police station by 1,000 square feet to save some money, which is a good suggestion. And then it was presented at a later meeting, I think it was by the town manager.
That's correct.
That perhaps Central Dispatch could stay in its current location, which, quite frankly, they've already outgrown, so modification would have to occur there in order for that to be sustainable for the future. Something that at the time when this building was being designed and they were doing cost analysis, I'm sure was not included. So in an effort to kind of figure out a way to save 1,000 square feet, it was suggested to keep Central Dispatch where it is. But after talking with the chief and the captain, it was determined that logistically, and for so many reasons, that it was not a viable solution to a different problem. Not a problem necessarily. It was a good suggestion, as I said, to try to reduce the cost of the building, reduce the square footage. And frankly, when we met with the architect and told them that we had decided to not do that, we wanted to keep Central Dispatch in the building, they were quite relieved because they realized all of the work. And every time you have an architect make changes of that magnitude, there's more money being spent that you don't need to spend. Fortunately, also, we were able to, and I was in on a meeting with the chief and the captain and the architect and the town manager. We basically took a section right out of the building from one side to the other, that gained almost 1,000 square feet. I think it was around 775,
I think
750.
it's close, yeah, it's closer to 800 square
Okay.
feet.
And that's about the best we were gonna do, because in order then to try to hit that 1,000-foot mark, they were talking about now starting to change the structure of the building. And you had a stairway that had to be moved in, which then was gonna disrupt both floors, the flow on both floors significantly. And that's when I spoke up, because I'm not on the building committee, and I said, you know, this makes no sense. We've got to this point, we've done this. And the town manager agreed. He said, no, that's good, we can work with that. So that's why and how we got here was in an effort to save some money. Some changes had to be made, and because of the suggestion of central dispatch, you know, as the chief alluded to, it's become such an integral part, not of just of the department, but of the community. And people come to the police station. There's a safe space there if you're doing e-commerce kind of exchanges. There's a lot of people, because of you know, divorces and so forth, that have child handoffs from one parent to another, and it's in a protected space.
There's the drug.
And we have the drug drop-off
Yeah,
box.
yeah,
That would
yeah.
have to go away if there were no police officers in the building. And if central dispatch stayed in the fire station building or in the public safety building, that would happen. The other thing that the chief alluded to was locking down the police station. You know, if the police station's on an entirely separate parcel of land in the town, and central dispatch is not with it, that building is gonna be locked down. So people see the sign of the police department, and they go there, hoping to be able to speak with somebody, or to, maybe they're feeling threatened and they want a safe place to go. That's not a place where they can expect that, because the building will be locked. There may or may not be anybody in there. Those that are in there are doing their work. They're not there to be greeters. They're not there to handle complaints and so forth. So it just, having central dispatch remain with the police department just makes good sense, and to do anything otherwise would just create a litany of problems for a lot of different reasons in different parts of the organization. So that's how we got to that point, anyway.
Yeah, and so everyone knows that we, as a commission, agreed with the chief 100%. We voted 100% in favor to support that position, that dispatch center stays where it belongs, that will best serve the citizens of Wolfeboro in the new building and not anywhere else.
Speak to your experience in Florida that time when you were doing the investigation.
Yeah, just went back when I was a detective myself. I happened to be on an investigation that led me to a pretty good-sized city in Florida. And on a Saturday, I went to the police station because I needed their assistance on something, and I couldn't get anybody. And this is a place that my guess would have had anywhere between 80 and 150 officers. We're talking a good-sized agency. And all you could do is hit the buzzer on the door, and you heard a voice that said, yeah, we'll you know, and eventually, 10 minutes later, cruiser pulled up. So it was very impersonal. It was poor public service, in my opinion, and certainly nothing that, you know, I think we as a board, you know, would support at all.
It's nothing that I want either.
No.
I don't want that. I think too that, you know, we practice, and I think we do it very well here, and we always have done it well. But we practice very strong community policing, and we want that interaction. We want people to be able to come in. We want to be able to listen to what the issues are. If my dispatchers, and they have my permission to do this, if they can solve an issue right then and there, they're going to solve it, because it's efficiency. I'm looking at creating efficiencies. I'm looking at building capability and capacity, creating efficiencies. I want my officers out on the road doing what they're supposed to be doing, either traffic enforcement or criminal patrol. That's what I want. So this is you know, this really is, Chief Stan Stevens and the police commission back then made the right call. And as far as I'm concerned, we've already discussed this years and years ago. That decision was made, and we don't need to be revisiting it. That decision's done, it's off the table. We've got central dispatch, and it needs to stay where it is. The point that you made about the geometry of the building is very important. That's critical to understand that. You know, when the architect, we spent taxpayer money getting these designs, right? And I'm not a big fan of doing plans after plan after plan We want a plan. We paid for that. It looked really good. Everybody loved it. And now at the 11th hour, right, we've got to shave 1,000 square feet. No, I understand. We have to try and save money. But when we do that, the royal we, when we do that, that costs money. That's not cheap. That's not free. It's not a free service. And when we start changing the geometry of the building by taking out a whole corner of the building, because dispatch is going to go somewhere else, oof, you know, now you're talking about a whole redesign, and that's not cheap. That's not cheap. So, and then we would have to do the same thing on the fire department, right? We would have to, as you said, they'd have to
Enlarge that
grow that
space.
space by about twice the size. So you're talking about changing the geometry of the buildings. No, we've got a plan that works. We were able to save essentially 800 square feet. And so if the problem was, we needed, you know, the problem statement was you needed to save 1,000 square feet. Well, we did that. We got 800 square feet. There's not gonna be a whole lot of difference between 800 square feet and 1,000 square feet, right? And in terms of cost savings, there's not a whole lot of cost saving there. So we achieved what the end result was. No need to do anything else with dispatch.
Well, and the other thing too, one last comment I wanna make is, when the building was designed, obviously there was a lot of input, to go into the consideration for the design by the architects, which they did. And it's also being designed in its earliest stages to last 40 or 50 years, because nothing today that you build for a municipality is inexpensive. And obviously the taxpayers are funding this, you know, any kind of construction that occurs. So to lessen the building and to start changing the geometry, as the chief mentioned, we also start changing the longevity of the building, which to me is counterproductive. What we took out to meet that 1,000-foot commitment isn't gonna make a big difference, but if we had done anything more than that, it would have made a huge difference. And again, every time we make a change, it's more money. And sometimes that's not always the best way to go, but anyway.
I said one more thing, if I could touch on
Sure,
one more
please.
thing. That another reason why, you know, the public has a little more access to this meeting today, and it's something I think it was back in November, we talked a little bit about mutual aid and what the agencies, both morally, our agency, the moral and professional obligation that we have to other towns and agencies. And I think it's important for the public to know that that's something that they don't see, or the average person might not know about, that, you know, that what the responsibilities of the Wolfeboro Police Department are, you know, that they do cost money, they do take time. And, you know, so if you could just touch on that, what, you know, the professional and moral obligations are. I know, correct me if I'm wrong, we're the 24-hour, 7-day-a-week agency in this area, correct?
We are indeed, yeah,
Yeah.
and we are.
So how does that affect you, and how do you think that affects your budget?
So, it does have an impact on the budget. You know, we're not spending, fortunately, we're not like a Conway having to go to Bartlett, you know, for example, often. But, you know, we do have to respond to other agencies, whether it's New Durham, whether it's Alton, whether it's Ospey, from time to time, because we have mutual aid agreements with those towns. We are the only 24/7 in this part of Carroll County anyway. And Ospey just got rid of their midnight shift. They're no longer running a midnight shift. Now, you talk about moral and ethical obligations, yes. I mean, when it comes to preservation of life, and we certainly have to respond. If we have an officer on, we have to respond. Now, does that mean that we become the coverage for Ospey at midnight? No. I mean, they're still responsible for their town, but when it comes to preservation of life safety, we certainly have an obligation there to respond, and it is what it is.
So you just said, so Ospey, they don't have 24.
They don't, they
Midnight
haven't
coverage.
had it in a while. I don't know how many months, but it's, I think at least 2.
Yeah. So what about the other towns that we have, like, we share a border with?
So, it depends on what Wakefield, how Wakefield is doing with their their personnel. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Alton is the same way. I think right now, presently, Alton is running a 24-hour operation. In the rest of Carroll County, I know Moultonborough has lost some officers, so I don't know what their staffing is, but they're, you know, hit or miss. And then after that, I don't think you hit another 24-hour PD until you get to Conway. The state police are off the road anywhere between midnight and 2 in the morning, and the sheriff's department shutters its doors at 11 p.m.
And is that somewhat, is that subject matter come up like at county chiefs meetings? Is that something you guys talk and plan about?
It does come up at the chiefs meetings from time to time. You know, the state police are, you know, like every other police organization, not Wolfeboro, but they're short personnel. I don't know how many personnel the state police are short, but I know they're short personnel. It seems that, and I know the troop commander up there is doing a fantastic job, but it seems that when he gets a couple of guys in, he loses a couple of guys to either retirement or to a duty change or to reassignment somewhere else. So, you know, he's fighting the same battle everyone else is. I know Rochester PD is short. In fact, their chief just retired. They're short quite a few officers as well. So these do come up at these discussions do come up at the chiefs meetings, and of course, there's no help on the horizon. I mean, you know, we really are on our own. There really is nothing else that we can fall back on.
Thanks, I appreciate that. Yeah.
It takes a lot of time for an off-duty officer to his calls to respond to police headquarters, to get a car, and then to be able to go and back up somebody. I mean, that could be a considerable period of time. And dangerous.
That is correct. That is one of the reasons why I let the midnight officer take the cruiser home. So if we need to call in backup, if it's 10 o'clock and we have you know, something happened, that officer is already equipped. So that's the reason we do that, because we're trying to cut down on that response time. That is a concern. It's a concern of mine. The midnight shift is, in my opinion, the most dangerous shift that we have. And it's not dangerous because it's a high activity shift. That's the danger. It's not. It's easy to become complacent during that shift. This is why I will not assign midnight shift permanently to an officer. Because you can't become complacent. And I want officers on their toes. Nobody likes doing the midnight shift. I didn't like doing the midnight shift when I was a patrolman. It is our most dangerous because of the lack of resources available. And when we look at, you know, the ambush that Officer Jeremy Sharon got involved with, I believe it was Epping.
Yeah.
That was on the midnight shift. That was something as innocuous as they have a motion alarm or some sort of alarm at a factory or warehouse, and he was going around the corner and then was shot and killed. And so that's exactly how these things happen. And there was no backup available for him. So that is a concern, and I think we need at some point this commission. My recommendation would be this commission needs to sit down with the Board of Selectmen, and we need to sit down with the Budget Committee, and we need to have a serious discussion about how and when we should plan on getting additional coverage for that midnight. I would eventually like to see, at a minimum, a 2-man midnight shift, and where the 2 officers could provide mutual aid to one another for building checks, for alarms, for abnormal activity if they're checking something that seems out of place or what have you. I think it just makes sense in 2022. Is it something that we need to do tomorrow? No, but is it something that we should put on the calendar and get both committees together and hash this out? Yes, because it's not as simple as just hiring one more guy, right? We know we're gonna have to hire 2.5 officers to cover that, because we're 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, right? So you're not just talking about one, but you're talking about multiple officers. But we really need to have a second officer on the midnight shift. Interestingly enough, about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, I was having a discussion with the Wakefield Chief of Police, who, by the way, is leaving Wakefield. He's going to another jurisdiction. But he had made comment to me, we were talking about the midnight shift, and he wanted to add, he was trying to grow his department, and which is slightly smaller than Wolfeboro, and he wanted to add a midnight shift, a second midnight shift. So he was going down the same road I was. He's really concerned about that officer being on duty by himself with very limited backup. And Wakefield is a big town, and so here you have a very experienced chief of police who happens to be an attorney. He has a law degree, and he's looking at planning police operations, and that midnight shift is really bothering him too. It tells me that you know, we're both on the on the same track, and we're both looking at the same issues correctly. He's bothered by, I'm bothered by it. I've been bothered by it for years. He's bothered by it. We need to close that gap. We have to figure out how to do that, and yes, I know it's going to cost money. It's going to be expensive, but not doing it because it's expensive is not the right answer.
Yeah, so the public's clear on it, so we actually do have a contract, if you will, what's called a mutual aid agreement, correct?
Yes, we do. We
With our
have mutual
neighboring
aid agreements
communities,
with quite a few agencies.
Right. And that outlines what everyone's responsibility is.
Yes, sir.
You know, and that's common practice throughout the state.
Yeah, it's common practice, yeah. We have mutual aid agreements all the way up to Sandwich.
One of the things that I know from my experience in law enforcement is that when you're working alone and there's no backup, and you're dealing with a number of individuals who, let's face it, may be under the influence of alcohol or drugs or other things, the chance of you being hurt is greatly heightened. And that means that you may be out of service for some period of time with some serious injuries. It's not easy to be able to staff an agency of this size and missing an officer who's rehabbing, you know, seriously. And I've witnessed that myself, so I'm cognitively aware that, you know, that's an issue for.
You know, interestingly enough, you bring up a really good point. I'm just going to say this one, you know, this one more thing on this topic. That, and I've seen this myself with my own eyes. In fact, just recently, when you have an angry group or a crowd, no matter the size, and they see one officer, they're going to be emboldened. That's right. It's exactly what's going to happen. But they see two officers, they back down right away. Even though there's only two, and there might be 10 or 15 or 20, they see two officers, they back down. They see one, they'll kind of start to circle the, you know, they'll start kind of circle, you know, like the vulture circling the dead cow in the middle of the prairie. Right? But they see two officers, they back away, and they comply. And that's good. That's what you want, right? You want that voluntary compliance with the law, because it's beneficial to the officer and it's beneficial to the rest of society. No one gets arrested. No one gets hurt. The peace is kept. Everything is normal, right? And the old mentality, and I know you probably heard it, because you were on the commission back then, but I'll see, you know, the old mentality, the if you will, the Sergeant Lato mentality, one riot, one ranger, that never worked for me. That didn't make any sense, and I don't want somebody to say, oh, you know, you're just afraid. You're talking to a guy who's got 3 Bronze Stars. I'm a retired U.S. Army paratrooper, right? I got 3 Bronze Stars. I've been in combat. All right, no, it's not that. It's people are going to needlessly get hurt, right? Because when they see one officer, they're not afraid to go to go hands-on. They're not afraid to go to fisticuffs. You see two officers, they back down. And that's the important thing to keep in mind.
Thanks, chief. That's all I have.
All right. I guess our selectmen's rep stepped out, so, we do have a liaison from the budget committee. Mr. Tom Bell, did you have any comments, or?
One question, I think it was the detective's report, you mentioned $3,000 revenue came into the courts, I think.
Well, that doesn't come to, that isn't revenue that the town gets, no, the state gets that.
Oh, yeah.
Nice try,
Yeah.
nice try. I like the way you think.
Think of like a true budget representative, except for the town ordinances, right? That does.
So money, revenue that does, that's a great question. Revenue that does come back to the town, is all Title 13 money. So that's anything dealing with liquor, right? Alcohol and liquor violations. So, you know, consumption of alcohol in town, well, that'd be a town ordinance, but that would come back. Town ordinance money would come back. Parking tickets come back. That all goes to the general fund. Doesn't come to us. Goes to the general fund, folks. It goes right into the general fund coffers. That gets paid right to, goes right to town hall. Title 13, so prohibited sales of alcohol or unlawful possession of alcohol, those fines, those state fines would go to the town. And then, unless it's directed by the courts for, say, public agency reimbursement expense, would not come to me, but go right to the town. The courts do their very best at getting that money to the town. The town will get the money. It may not be right away, maybe several months, 6, 7 months down the road, but the town will get the money. And the town usually gets a check once a month, usually gets a check from the courts of varying amounts. But they're short-staffed because of COVID-19, but I did see something, I did see a revenue report where there was it looked like the revenue stream was pretty good coming into the town from the courts.
Yeah, I think that's a recent change, is tracking that. So
Yes.
that we can share that with the public.
And I have been, yes, and that's been something that myself and Sherry and Captain Livy have been pounding the drum on for about 3 or 4 or 5 years or so. We wanted to see those revenue reports.
Right. Good. Other than that, Chairman, I don't have anything.
Thank you, Tom. Our next monthly meeting date is going to be here in the public library in the Bradley Room on Thursday, February 17th at 4 o'clock. I do have a question relative to is there a date on the Winnie Dip this year?
We do not have a date set on the Winnie Dip, but thank you for bringing that up. So the Winnie Dip, do you want to talk about it? Do you want me to talk about it?
Oh, you can go ahead.
I know the dates.
You got the dates?
Yeah, they sent it out to us.
Okay, all right. I haven't seen the dates yet. So what are the dates?
It's between, like the
Okay.
15th and the 18th.
The 15th and 18th,
March.
right, but we haven't set a specific
Oh,
date yet.
March, okay.
So much like we did last year, this police department, and we've been doing it for quite a number of years. I think Mia told me last year was we've been doing it for about 40 years, supporting New Hampshire Special Olympics, and we do it throughout the course of the year in a number of events. And one of them is the Winnie Dip, and it's what I call the Penguin Plunge. Right, we're gonna jump into the frozen waters of Lake Winnipesaukee in March between the 15th and the 18th. And I think we're planning on doing it the same location we did last year, which is down at
Piping Rock. I mean, Clearwater.
Clearwater
Lodges.
Ledges. Thank you.
Lodges.
Lieutenant Andre DeVere is going to let us use his property, and we're gonna jump in down there. Now, having said that, folks, I want to let you know that we take a tremendous number of precautions. We have ladders in the water. We have firefighters in exposure suits in the water. We bring in Eastern Propane comes in with their warming trailer. We have propane heaters there. We're protected. We're warm. We're in the water and we're out of the water very quickly. So again, I want you to look. I know I gave that warning earlier about being around cold water, but when we do it, we have all sorts of protections. We mitigate the risks, right? That's my job as the chief of police, is to limit that liability, mitigate those risks, bring those risks of cold water injury down. So, yes, we are doing the Winnie Dip. Sponsor me, please. Sponsor me. Don't worry about him. Sponsor me. This is a race. And all the money, none of the money comes to us. It all goes to New Hampshire Special Olympics so they can hold their Special Olympics event in the summertime down at the University of New Hampshire. I think it's in August. And but yeah, that is a great that's a great event that we do. We love doing it. I know Eric LaRochelle signed up. I've signed up. Bob has signed up. Thank you, Commissioner. Mia signed up. Mary Devine has signed up.
I think Mike Strock wants to also.
Who? Oh,
Sergeant
Sergeant
Strock.
Strock. Yeah, Joe.
But not Riggs.
Yeah, Joe Shanks is backing out. We're gonna try to get him round up back in.
Where do you sign up at?
Through Mia.
Yeah, So are you gonna do it? You want to do it?
Yeah.
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 All right.
Woo. I like the commission.
I'm in.
All right.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. So anyway, that's what the Winnie Dip is all about. It is a hoot. We have a good time. It is a hoot, and it's for a very worthwhile cause.
Absolutely. And hopefully that this year, when it's held, the weather won't be as brutal as last year, because I remember last year, the American flag at the end of Andre's Dock was literally straight up from the wind, and the ambient temperature that day was already like in the teens, so it was
The
so...
water was warm.
Yeah, compared to
You
the
didn't
air
want to get out.
Yeah,
The water was warm.
yeah.
Yeah, it was like
But it's-
minus 30 in the air.
It's a great uniter of
Oh, it is. It's
Yeah.
a hoot. It's a hoot. We and Eastern Propane really they really come in and support us very well. In fact, we'll be recognizing Cider Berry and Chuck and his crew, and we'll get them in here, and we'll present them some certificates. And it's important to do that because they supported us so well last year.
Any comments from the public at all? Nothing? Okay. At this time then, I will entertain a motion to enter into non-public session under 91-A for the purpose of litigation. Do I have a motion on that?
I would move that.
Motion made by Commissioner O'Brien, seconded by
I would second that.
Commissioner Coop. Take a roll call vote. Commissioner O'Brien,
Aye.
Commissioner Coop,
Aye.
and Commissioner Wood is a yes also. We'll be in recess momentarily while we clear the room for non-public session.